Hello YouTube and welcome back. We are gonna do a new speaker build, and this is going to be one of the famous Paul Carmody builds. This is a Sprite. It's going to be a variant of the Sprite, meaning that we're going to change the dimensions a little, and we're going to change the port size a little, because we're going to use 1.5-inch PVC pipe that you can get really cheap at your local hardware store, or you may have some already on hand. All right, so let me tell you about the parts that you're going to need. You're going to need two Dayton ND90-8 speakers. And these are full range speakers, and you're going to need one for each box. Those are the only speakers you'll need. You need one Shure amplifier or something thereabouts. You don't have to have this particular amplifier. You can go a little bit smaller if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and do one Shure amplifier. This is a 2 by 25 watt amplifier. We're not going to give it full power. And you're going to need 4 3/4-inch screws. You're also going to need 4 of those little plastic spacers that we use for the amplifier, and 8 3/8-inch screws. And those are typically number 6. These are also number 6 screws as well. Now, you're going to need 16 gauge wire. You can use speaker wire, or you can use like this, which you can get at the local hardware store. Typically, you can get it for somewhere about 19 cents a foot. I have 5 feet of each, and so 10 feet total, which is about $1.90 in wire. So very cheap. Next thing you're going to need is you're going to need the crossover components. You're going to need 2 0.9 inductors. These were purchased at Parts Express. You can get them at Parts Express or somewhere else. You're also going to need 2 of these resistors, which are 20 ohm resistors. Okay. I should mention, if you're only going to build one of these speakers, you will only need half of the parts, obviously, because each one of these is going to be hooked up to each one of the speakers. And you are going to have some pipe parts. This is 1.5-inch PVC pipe. This PVC pipe this piece is actually cut at 1.5 inches. You're going to need 2 of those. You're going to need 2 at 2.5 inches, assuming your bend is the same. My bend is a 3-inch bend. Now, the total pipe length you're going to want is 7 inches. So if you wanted to pipe it like out the side, if you decide to put your port somewhere else like out the side, you can just do a 7-inch long straight port if you'd rather. All right, other couple pieces you're going to need. You're going to need 4 5.5 by 4.5 pieces of 1/2-inch material. This is MDF. And those are for the sides. And you're going to need 2 of these, which is 4.5 inches tall by 11.5 inches wide. This will be for the rear. And you're going to cut in an 1.5-inch hole in it. And I rounded that over to flare the port. But that's 1.5 inches on the inner circle. And that's so when you line up your port, this is where the port goes, you'll have a nice perfect circle. Now you're going to need 6 of these. Now these are 5.5 inches tall by 12.5 inches wide. 4 of them will be just like this. This will be for the top and the bottom of each speaker. The other 2 will have a hole cut in it like this. This is a 3-inch hole with a round over bit over it. It's 3/8-inch round over. You don't have to round it over if you don't want to. I do. And that's where the speaker is going to be. So that's for the front baffle. The first thing that we are going to do is we're going to assemble it partially. I should mention that these are going to be standalone speakers, meaning that this amplifier is just going to be on a scrap piece of wood. This rear also, we are going to do some cutting, so we're not going to use that piece yet. But you'll put your bottom board down. You'll put your front board down. Now, I'm going to put the speakers on the left-hand side like so. The port then would go on the opposite side. Okay? So if your speaker goes on the left-hand side, your port's going to go on the right-hand side. Okay? If you notice, there is about a 1/2-inch gap on either side. That's for the sides. Side boards, which are here. We're going to slide in here at 4.5 inches. A nice tight sine, 4.5 inches. And then you'll eventually put the top on when you're ready, like that. And then you have a nice, beautiful speaker box, like so. Now, of course, that's not even close to being put together properly. That's about what the speaker is going to look like when it's done. This is going on a temporary homemade racing arcade, and that's why we're going to use these speakers. Let me start putting the box together and showing you what we are going to do. We are going to cut this rear off about here. The reason why we're going to cut that off is we're going to make this a screw-on port, and I think I said you're going to need 4 of those 3/4 inch screws. You're actually going to need 12 of those 3/4 inch screws, and that'll be used to screw this on at the end, and that'll be to get to the speaker if you ever need to. Alright guys, let's start assembling the port to show you how to do that. I have one already put together. Basically, you're going to take your bend and you're going to put the 1.5 inch port in here and the 2.5 in on this side. Now, how this is going to actually hook up, and so if I were to do this, I would take that 1.5 inch, pop it down, then I take that 2.5 inch, pop it in, and you're done. You got your port. Okay. Now how that goes in. Now this should be about 7 inches long. So we have 2.5 inches here, and it goes into here, plus 1.5 here. Now that's 4 inches, and this is about a 3-inch bend. So you've got about 7 inches there. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna put that on there nice and even. You're going to glue it down, and that's the very first thing we're going to do to start our box. We're going to glue that into place, kind of clamp it down, make sure it's nice and tight and glued, and then this will just be out this way. And that's going to be the first portion of building the box. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and show you this part too. We're going to put our speaker down in there. Our speaker fits pretty perfectly in there, so we don't have to worry too much about that. And I'm going to put it probably like that, because I like to put the crossover kind of near the bottom. And we're going to drill pilot holes in here, and then screw the screws in to make sure that they screw in nice and tight. And as long as they screw in nice and tight, and that's a pretty good center, just should, because there's not really any wiggle room. The way I cut this at 3 inches, there's really no wiggle room, which is nice. All you got to do is screw in those screws, and you'll have that done. We still have to solder some speaker wire on there and the crossover, but that's pretty much it for that part. But let me show you kind of the way that this is going to hook up so that you know. We are going to take our speaker over here, and we're going to take this, and that's exactly how this is going to hook up. You're going to solder these 2 pieces together, one end to one end, and you're going to take some positive speaker wire. You don't need much. Pause this just for. Alright guys, I'm back. So you're going to take this positive speaker wire, you're going to solder it onto there, and then you're going to solder it onto the positive terminal of the speaker, and the positive terminal of the speaker is here. And the negative does not get hooked up to this. The negative comes straight out the back of the box. We're just going to drill a hole out the back of the box, and then we're going to use some Gorilla Glue to fill that hole. We'll show you that. Out of the other side of this crossover is going to be another red wire, just like the same thing, and it's also going to be attached to these two. These two will be attached to each other and attached to the red speaker wire, and then that will also be going out the back of the speaker. Okay, now the red wire will eventually hook up to one side of this amplifier where it says positive. Okay, the negative, once again, will come directly out of the smaller tab, come out the back of the box, and go directly into the negative terminal on the amplifier. Same with the other speaker, okay? So this just goes in line with the positive terminal of the speaker and the positive wire. Some people may ask, can I just solder this directly to the terminal? Sure. If you want to solder that directly to the terminal, you can do that. I usually use a little bit of speaker wire, so that way it's easier to get out if I need to. And then this will be glued onto the box. And honestly, guys, it's that simple as far as hooking up the speaker. There's not much more than that. Hey guys, just want to show you that we got the ports done. I want to tell you what we did here. On the bottom is the 1.5 inch, and I glued these two pieces together, which is the 2.5 and the elbow. And then I took that 1.5 by itself, and I just super glued it onto here and held it in place. Now I use like a Loctite super glue, which only takes about 30 seconds to hold on. And I gave it about an hour. And then I glued on this part. Now, I did glue these together. You could air fit them if you really wanted to. I'd be concerned if something were to happen in there. There's really no way to get back in there the way that I'm building this box. And so, as far as getting to the port again. And so I use plumber's glue. You could probably super glue it. It's not, you don't need it actually for plumbers, but if you use plumber glue and primer, you know that you're going to get a really tight without any type of air leaks. Now I am going to caulk around here. I was going to use some Gorilla Glue, but I decided I'm just going to caulk it instead, and did the same with this side. Alright guys, I want to show you what I did with the box. If you take a look at it, I went ahead and glued the bottom on, and the right hand side, the side closest to the speaker. That's because that's the side that's going to want to move with that on there. And so that's the first step into building a box. You notice I didn't put the other side on, I didn't put the rear on. There's a reason for that. We're going to go through that right now. This one, you will notice that I went ahead and soldered on to the positive, the red, and onto the negative, the black. Once again, that black wire has nothing attached to it. It will go out the back of the speaker and will be connected straight to the amplifier. The red does have the 20 ohm resistor on it and the 0.9 inductor. If you notice, I wrapped these around each other and then soldered the ends and then soldered the red wire to them. Once again, we haven't done the rear yet, and that's because we have to drill a hole through it, and we're going to glue this down. We're going to hot glue this down into place. Now, just to give you an idea of what we're going to do, let's move that on over. We're going to put this up. That'll go right about there. There's a 1/2 inch stock that's going to go there. And when we do, we're going to drill a small hole about here to run the two wires through. And each one has, I might run 2 holes for each specific one, or I might run one big one. I think I'll probably just run 2 because I have the right size drill bit that will just drill those 2 in. And that wire will come straight out the back, and then we'll run some Gorilla Glue on the outside to make sure that no air escapes there. We want all the air to escape from the port. And so far, that's all you got going on right now. This is cut. We cut this at 5 inches, and there's a reason why, and we're going to get into that. But let's go ahead and glue this side on and drill some holes for the speaker wire. Alright guys, I am back again. I just want to show you some of the progress that I made. You see, I made a little window out of just some 1/2 inch stock that was left over, and just measured it up to here, which is 4.5 inches high, and added a second one to help support it on this side, and which is about 5.5 inches, and that's going to slide in there really nicely. There's going to be some play on either side and up and down, and there's a reason for that. That's because once we paint this or vinyl, whatever we decide to do with it, if we don't leave a little bit of room, that will not be able to close. Now let me show you one that's almost complete, because there are a couple things that we did. We added, this is just a speaker gasket tape. We added that on there. and then of course the top will go on as well. And so that's basically what it'll look like. Once this goes on, there will be 4 screws in each corner, and that is about it. Just give me a second, I'll go ahead and finish them. One last statement. In here, you're going to want to put either some Gorilla Glue or glue of some sort to cover these holes here. But that's about it. Alright guys, give me a minute and I'll go ahead and finish these up and show you what they look like completed. Hey guys, we are back again. Just wanted to show you the finished product. Here it is, the 2 speakers together. They're not completely finished. I have to decide how I want to finish them. I'm thinking about doing a vinyl wrap, which I've never done before, in a carbon fiber look. But this is basically what they look like being done. Now you can have them standing straight up like this, so they're mini bookshelf speakers, or you can do them on the side, so if you want to put them on a shelf or somewhere like beneath a flat screen TV or something, you can do that. In fact, I'm going to be using this one, this orientation myself. But they're done, and I gotta say, they sound amazing. I'm gonna go ahead and play some music for you. If you did get like the Shure amplifier, you can also hook it up to something like the LaPi or something, but if you got the Shure amplifier, there's mine right there, just hooked up, and I have a power cord going to it. The power cord is a 19.74 by 19 volt by 4.74 amp power supply. So speakers are getting about 15 to 20 watts, somewhere in that range. Alright guys, in the next video I will play you some music. Until then, enjoy, and as always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up.